Are we live? Are we live?
We
All
are
right.
live.
All right. Welcome to Citizens Arrest. I am Shari Dunn and I am here with. Take it away.
Marlon Weems.
Yes.
I'm ready to go. We got a lot to talk about.
We got a lot to talk about. Citizens Arrest. Just, I always like to reframe this because the more I live in the title, the more I think about how interesting it is, right? That the two of us should say we have a right to arrest ideas and concepts and interrogate them because we think of citizens arrest as like this violent tool of white supremacy. But what if we made citizens arrest?
Hey, really?
So I love the
I mean,
more I
if you think about it, how different would it be? You got these Karens that always calling the police on folks,
yeah yeah
like they're going to
exactly.
make an arrest, like they're ready to. It would be really interesting if we started, if we turned the tables.
That's what I'm talking about. And so I think that's what citizens arrest is here to do is to say, what if we were making the arrest? What if we were interrogating? So that's the fun part. And Marlon and I were just having an off the live conversation that we were like, we should stop talking and turn on the live, which is the Odyssey. Talk about that, Marlon?
I, it's just really funny to me how there's a certain segment of white America that thinks we were invented like in 1960. Like anything in the ancient past, everything that got invented, when you start telling them stuff like, algebra is like, it's not, it mean algebra. It was created in the Middle East, it just
Mhm.
disrupts the entire, worldview of
Mhm.
what a lot of people think ancient history was. And not for nothing, the Odyssey's like it's made up. It's not a real story about real
Right.
people.
We can't even get into that part of the conversation. This ain't even real, you know, and
It's like Santa
that is
Claus.
yeah.
I
It's
just think of
really
Megan
crazy.
Kelly talking about Santa is white. Now get over it. And it's like, no, Santa is imaginary.
Well, and the funny part about that is that the saint who Santa was built on was North African. So
Mhm.
if we really
Wait,
want
whoa,
to,
whoa, whoa, whoa.
right,
You
right,
got to break
right.
that down. Oh, hold
All
it.
right, all right.
Hold
So
it.
all right.
Now
And
you're
so
messing with my worldview.
yeah, so Saint Nicholas.
Right.
Let's see here. Uh, I want to make sure I say it right because I don't want to make up anything because then people be like, you didn't say it right. Okay, so Saint Nicholas was born in modern day Turkey, but his
Okay.
family was of North African or what they call Afro Eurasian empire.
Mhm. Yeah.
So when you talk about Nicholas, Saint Nicholas, there's a lot of back and forth about this, but his skin color, his presentation speaks to somebody who is not, if not North African, mixed. And the story was that he would give these children who were orphaned, he would leave little gifts for them. Um,
Mm.
that's how he became a saint. That's how he became Saint Nicholas. And the origin story that is Santa Claus is more than likely based on either a North African person or a person of mixed North African descent. So all of our stories have been reinterpreted through a white supremacist lens. And so the problem is when we try to go back, well, where's the proof of that? Baby, where's your proof that Jesus was blind? Where's your picture? But there you don't have to prove that. But I
I
have to
mean, you
prove,
see some of
yeah,
these, depictions. They got Jesus running around looking like Fabio or somebody,
yeah.
like he is
And
from freaking Norway.
but here's the thing that is accepted. But if you go back and say people in antiquity, when we know civilization comes out of Africa, looked more like either Africans or mixed race people to a large extent, you're the one who have to prove it. But you got a fairy tale picture of Jesus and you don't have to prove it. You know what I'm saying? So
Yes, I
anyway,
do.
just as an aside, Saint Nicholas, there are legitimate discussions about Saint Nicholas' actual ancestry. And so, you know, there you
Mhm.
go. And I guess Megyn Kelly's head would blow
The
up about
part that kills me is this whole idea, and like you said, we're talking about mythological
that.
characters
Mhm.
or, you know, fictitious, just totally fictitious. And, you know, I've seen so much, I've been on threads a lot lately,
Mhm.
and so much of people saying, you know, Helen of Troy was supposedly the most beautiful woman in the world. Do you really think this is the most beautiful woman? And they just have, I mean, what they're saying is these people should be white. That's
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
the thing. And but they never have a comment. Look at this. This is John Wayne. You
Yeah.
know, he ain't Chinese or Asian or Mongoloid. You know, he's not
Mhm.
from Mongolia. And
Mhm.
yet nobody has a problem with Charlton Heston playing Moses, you know. So yeah,
Well, no,
it's
because
just a very
that fits
weird.
that fits the worldview, right? Because what it did and what it does is it basically says, you know, you didn't exist. You don't exist. We were just saying this. You don't exist in the past. You don't exist in the present. You don't exist in the future. You don't exist. I mean, that's essentially what is being said, right? Like we just don't
Mhm.
exist. We don't have we only exist in a subservient, limited vision of the world. And that is, like you say, that vision of the world is only 400 years old. It's a very new version of the world. And so, because somebody on Instagram was like trying to clown me, and when they can only do nothing else, they talk about, oh,
Oh
you're
yeah.
you're not, you're not good looking. I was like, at least I look good enough to show my face. You can't even see your face in your picture, so I wouldn't worry about that. And
Well,
then the second thing is, and he said, oh, well, you talk like people whose only contribution to the world has been as servants. See, that's what they know.
okay,
That's
there
what
you
people
go.
have been told. And so I said, well, I think Hannibal would have questions about that. The man who conquered the known world was black. They look at that they look at the coins with Hannibal's nose and face and still try to make him white. And then say, well, we don't know when these coins were made. Dude, you have no problem making Jesus black, but you see, or
You
white,
mean
but
white?
yeah, white, but you see physical pictures of black people and you still aren't 100% sure. So I mean, it's all designed for that, which of course.
Well, it's just so strange when you consider, like when I was growing up, you know, you had, I mean, back in, you know, we're talking about in the 60s. So most of the TV shows that weren't comedies were Westerns.
Mm-hmm,
Um, all the characters, whether they were the sheriff or
mm-hmm,
Tonto, were white dudes,
mm-hmm,
you know, and I mean, when that's all you know, you don't really think about it,
mm-hmm.
right?
He got totally erased out of the West.
But I
And this
mean,
people, I just want to say this real quick. People say, what impact does that have? It had an impact when Beyonce tried to release a country album. That's how deep it goes, right? Because people freaked out. We can't be country when we were country. You know what I mean? Like, that's how deep that goes, Marlon. Think about that. From the fact that all of those videos and all of those movies we saw as kids come up to the present day where people try to argue down that Beyonce, a girl from Houston, whose mama from Louisiana, who daddy
mm,
from Alabama, can't be country.
that's
That's
crazy.
that's wild.
And it's also, well, I guess, you know, when you think about racism, it's ignorance too,
Mhm.
right? Because if you're really intelligent, you kind of know that your argument is lame. Now, you still might be racist anyway,
Mhm.
but a lot of it is just don't know any people like us and haven't spent a whole lot of time learning just basic history.
Yes, and I also think this, and I'm not trying to justify it, but I do just what you were just saying, the impact of all that imagery on all of us over
Mm,
all this time. We don't know. I always come back to this story about Chris Rock on Finding Your Roots, which I cannot get over, mainly because my family is so tied to their identity that he did not know that he had an ancestor who was a part of that South Carolina state legislature after Jim Crow during Reconstruction. He had no idea. The first time he heard it was on after Finding Your Roots. How does a story like that get lost? Because there's a relentless push that we ain't nothing, we ain't never gonna be nothing, we've never been a part of nothing, and we hear that. We hear that. Everybody hears that. So when you talk to white people about the fact that Rome was a multicultural society, people look at you kind of blank. Where have they ever heard that? Right? Who am I? I'm not so why should I believe her? You know what I'm saying?
And you have to think about what Rome was. People think, I think generally, when they think of Rome, they're thinking of Rome now. Rome was all the way through Asia, North Africa, all these, across the continents of the known world at the time, right?
The known world.
And it was not an all white world.
It wasn't a world.
It was more non-white than white.
Hannibal conquers the known world. Hannibal goes through all of these places with his afro hair and his afro nose, and his army does what armies do. They pillage and rape, and they change the dynamics of the places they go through. But I mean, talk about Greek. Well, ancient Greek, we don't know what they look like, but I know what some modern Greeks look like. And I'm not saying anything. I'm just saying I see some pinky hair and some full butts and some full lips. So I'm super perplexed how Greek people think they got the way they are. I'm confused about that.
Oh, now, Shari, you're going to lose the Greek audience for us.
I mean, they know those hips didn't just pop out of nowhere. So I'm confused about the whole situation. That you so offended about Lupita Nyong'o, and have you checked your ancestry?
Listen, one of the funniest things back during COVID that I can recall was, folks sitting around, nothing to do, and people are, sending their DNA into Ancestry, and they start getting back results that they don't want. And it wasn't always a black and white thing. I saw the one that just is in my mind. It was up in like New Jersey, and there was this family that was very Italian. And come to find out, they ain't got a drop of Italian blood. And it just, like, you could just see, it just broke folks. The dad running through the house, this is wrong, rah. And it's DNA. I mean, so.
Well, a lot of people who think they have Italian have black in the United States, not in the rest of the world, but in the United States, because it was the easiest cover. That's the Pope's family. Yes, they did have Italian, but they also had black. So it's easy to cover. The other one that people have that they didn't realize is ethnicity, Jewish ethnicity. So markers for Jewish ethnicity. There are a lot of people whose families, just like they passed for white, passed as Protestant. So they dropped their Jewish ethnicity. And so, a lot of people also during that time were finding out that great grandma was actually Jewish in ethnicity, and they did not know that. Yeah.
You remember Madeleine Albright, who was Secretary of State?
She had no idea.
I know. And she was like 70.
Yeah.
Like, lady, no, I don't know.
We think of passing only as black people passing for white. I think that's the main way we think about it. But when I do my racial equity trainings, I talk about this. There are other people who pass. There are people who are Italian who tried to pass as not, like if they could lighten up the family. That's very much language that we think of as black people. There are people who tried to pass ethnicity, so not being Jewish. So there's a lot of passing because white Anglo-Saxon Protestant is the thing you're trying to reach. And so everybody's trying to get there. Unless we could look extremely white, could not pass, right? But other people could, come up with some crazy story and try to make it work. But the Odyssey, have you seen it yet? Has anybody out there seen it yet? I know we got a lot of people on the live. Hey, hello, everybody. Thank you for joining. It's all Greek to me. That's pretty funny. Sylvester Stallone. When I was in the Odyssey, there was a preview for a movie coming up about how Sylvester Stallone wrote Rocky, which in and of
Really?
itself is a movie. It's an interesting story. Like
So
nobody,
this is a documentary, or
no,
is it
it's a
like a
fictionalized,
biopic kind of
yeah,
thing?
like a biopic,
Huh.
fictionalized. Yeah. So anyway, that was a preview in the Odyssey. So the Odyssey. So again, ancient Rome was a multicultural society. Greece less so, but not because of race, because the way we think about race is only about 400 years old. And that's a problem because while it is only 400 years old, all of our history is whitewashed backward. So everything backward has been whitewashed out, including the statues. I tell this story before. There's uh, a PhD level woman who studies history, and I don't know what do
Hmm.
you call it, when you
Could be
go
an
into,
anthropologist.
thank you, anthropologist kind of thing going around. And she pointed out that all of the statues that are presented in museums today are wrong, that they were never meant to be presented as white marble. And because the marble was covered with painting. So statues were gold or brown or black or blue. And all of the statues, that no one would have displayed these statues as white marble, but that the people who discovered them, the white anthropologists, they took the paint off, which I didn't even know. Like they
Yeah,
found
I have read that. I've
statues
read that.
with the paint, took it off, polished it up, because this presents an ideal white supremacist narrative. So they destroyed antiquity by doing that, and they then communicate to everybody that that's what antiquity looked like. It did not. Roman Empire,
Same thing in
multicultural.
Egypt, by the way.
Same, yeah. They went and they did things to twist the narrative so that you would never associate any of these things with Black people, because they already had said we were nothing. So they had to keep up this lie. So it reminds you of the Planet of the Apes. Like they've been lying this entire time to keep up the lie. But anyway, so Rome, you were a citizen of Rome. And yes, there were slaves in Rome, but the problem with the language of slave is it is so indelible in white Americans' mind to Black slavery that they transport us into slavery in every time period. And we're not only slaves in antiquity. There are white slaves, there are all kinds of slaves in antiquity. It is not a race-based system of slavery, but they went back. So anyway, so Rome is multicultural, and Greece not as Rome, but certainly not a white-based society, right? Because there's no concept of that.
Yeah,
So
the
yeah,
whole idea of race-based enslavement is an American thing, or um, England, America. I mean, until before transnational slavery, as we think of it, race was not. It wasn't even really a thing. It was
it
more
wasn't a
your
thing.
it was your ethnicity. You
And
know,
people enslaved people, people, races like Africans enslaved people, yeah, tribes enslaved tribal people, Romans
sure.
enslaved, and then they had systems where people could buy their way out of slavery. There's some people in slavery, people go to different chattel race-based slavery, meaning that we are like cows, and that our
We were
color
assets.
Mark, yeah, that is unique-ish. There may have been other little pieces of it around the world, but the United States really perfects this in a very distinct way, and that is something we don't talk about. So the difficulty is to see Lupita Nyong'o or Zendaya, or there's another Black man, and there's another guy in the movie. I don't know if he's Arab, or I don't know his background, I'll look it up. But to see these people in antiquity is so jarring, because every museum, everybody's white, because the Renaissance painted white people. Every statue is buck naked in white, because that's how white supremacists chose to display them. So the idea that we exist in antiquity is so hard for people to grasp, I guess.
Hmm.
They just can't do it.
I remember. I can't think of this guy's name. He used to be in the House.
Uh-huh.
He was so racist. Steve something, and he was. I want to say he was from Iowa, and I'll never forget. I think this was during the 2016 election campaign.
I know who you're talking about. I think he was from Pennsylvania. Did he have dark hair?
No, this was a
Oh,
guy. He was always saying racist stuff,
well, yeah,
which I know it's hard to narrow
yeah,
down.
yeah. It's
But he was, I don't remember if it was like during the Republican convention or whatever. But Chris Hayes and Joy Reid were, you know how they do the thing where they set up outside of a venue and they're interviewing folks and all that. And this guy made a comment to the effect of, that white, no, he didn't say white. He said Western civilization was responsible basically for everything that's been discovered, every advancement.
Well, that's what J.D. Vance says all the time.
And I mean, I had never heard a person say something like that, like on TV.
Yeah.
That should have been the signal of where we were headed, that he would feel like he could say that and not be challenged. Now, I will say they immediately challenged it in a,
but now you have
in a mainstream media way, right?
Yeah, but the vice president says it. Elon Musk says it. The governor of Florida said it recently. Donald Trump says it. So now everybody just says it out loud because they really do believe that. We are non-existent in the, and you and I were just talking about this. We don't exist in the past. we are not a fucking factor in the present, and we don't exist in the future, and we don't exist in imagination. You know what I mean?
I told Shari that when I was a kid, we used to laugh at the Flintstones because it's like nobody black. I know, they did the movie with Halle Berry later on, but I mean the cartoon, we didn't exist on Johnny Quest. We didn't exist. Now they did have Haji, so we would pretend to be Haji when we be playing. But as far as the Flintstones, I mean, we're talking about prehistoric world, and ain't a black person nowhere to be found. And in the future, we weren't on the Jetsons.
We're not in the future. If you spend so much time degrading our humanity, you have to somehow justify our exclusion. And our exclusion is our fault. You know what I mean? So it's not your fault, because if you acknowledge we did exist in the past, we have been conquerors and heroes, and we've had our ups and downs, then you'd have to acknowledge you were wrong and you have been lying. And people don't like to do that. Ain't nobody gonna do that. They rather change everything. And that's why you got 600,000 downvotes on the trailer to the Odyssey. Because
what?
600,000 downvotes.
Oh, see, America is telling on herself.
Well, that was the world, to be fair. And that was the world. And a lot of it came from Greece. People whose hair is as nappier than mine. Sorry, I'm just gonna keep it 100 here. Butt's bigger than mine, hips bigger than mine, tan better than me, telling the world they don't have anything to do with Africans and there should be no hell. I'm like, what? Who are y'all? So this is how disconnected, right? It is for people. So that 600,000 was not just U.S. based, just to be fair. It's a worldwide problem with racism, right? Sure. I mean, the whole thing with the World Cup.
Oh my goodness, yeah.
I hit the sound by mistake here. It's the thing with the World Cup, right? Where people were voting, wanted Argentina to lose because they so racist. Argentina spent years trying to whiten. They literally had a policy, which is apparently the U.S. policy now, to whiten their population and get rid of any vestige of Black existence in Argentina. So that's why a lot of people wanted Spain to win. It was colonizer versus colonizer, okay? But people were like, if I had to pick the colonizer, I'm gonna pick the least offensive one currently, and that's Spain. Because so this instinct is worldwide. It's not US wide, to devalue and degrade. I mean, even when we talk about Africa, the way they do this little trick, like Egypt, like that,
and Africa.
Or North Africa. So
right.
It's a little lighter, a little better. The massive continent, and the idea that somehow dark-skinned people stayed in this little circle until slavery came and got them. And otherwise they never left.
Thank goodness for slavery, right? I mean, no, really, I'm joking, but I have heard people say that somehow, well, you remember Florida governor was talking about how all these skills that Black people learned. Like they were over there, not, and specifically, there were tribes of Black people, or Africans, I should say,
Mhm.
that were targeted because they rode horses.
Because of their skill.
Yeah, and
He said
cooking
we
and
didn't
all
have
of these
any
different
skill.
things.
We
Yeah,
didn't
we
have any.
learned it over here. We didn't
Everything we
bring
learned.
anything.
The interesting part about that, there's a great food documentary called High on the Hog, which you may have seen. Some of you
I've
out there,
heard of it.
you should
Is
watch it, Marlon.
is
You
it
would
on
love it.
Netflix?
Yeah,
I
yeah.
I
And
think I've heard of it.
they have a season 2, but season 1 is super interesting. But I learned something I didn't know from season 1 about that is that the first cash crop that the enslaved Africans helped develop, that is the basis for America's wealth, was not tobacco and it was not cotton. It was rice. And they specifically targeted uh, Africans who had knowledge and skill around rice cultivation for capturing. And that Black people, Africans, hand dug the
Mm.
entire coast of South Carolina into a profitable rice production space. Hand
Wow.
dug that. And using their knowledge of flooding and when to flood and when to drain the water, created the first economically viable big crop in the United States, which was rice. But according to DeSantis, they told us that. But they sold us for that, right? So this is how, and then when you try to say this to people, well, they're like, I ain't never heard that. That ain't true. Like, okay, well, I don't know what to tell you. Because there's a relentless, and then with Trump administration and everything, they know that that knowledge is power. They know that whoever controls the story controls the future. And so that is why they're being so relentless. But here's the interesting part. The Odyssey blew away records this weekend. So there's
So
the
somebody
sunny
went to see it.
side of the street. Right, right. So there's the sunny side of the street that people went, even those 600,000 people, and maybe a good portion of those were bots, who knows? They still came out.
Hmm. Yeah, I'm going to go see it. So at some point, but when
Mhm.
my family goes, I got to have at least $125 in my pocket.
Oh,
4 people, let me tell
yeah.
you, it's either pay the electric bill or go to the movies because
Well,
it's not
so
cheap.
the trick is go in the morning because some people have early morning, but not right away for this, but they will. They usually do
Girl, I'm wearing that senior discount out.
yeah, the senior discount and early. And if you don't want to see it in IMAX, I think some of folks the price is a little pricier if you see it
I
in
feel
IMAX.
like something like these epic stories, I like to see them in IMAX.
Mhm.
I just feel like, I mean, I may end up watching it at home, but I'm probably going to go to the movies to see it.
It's definitely great to see it in the movies. Yeah, it comes out of the gate with $264 million against the budget of 250 to produce and to
Mm.
promote. The promotion budget has been insane. So yeah, they're going to need to do at least over half a billion. But I think they can
I
do
don't
that.
think they'll have any trouble
I
because a
mean,
lot of these folks complain and they going to go see that movie. A
Michael
lot of them.
Michael movie did over a billion. So it is now
Oh,
officially.
wow.
And whatever you think about Michael, and I wrote a thing about Michael and the difficulties of memory and how much we can love somebody and how that changes
Hmm.
how we see story and how you know victimization cannot always be the way we think it should be. That all said, the movie is the most successful biopic of all time and is moved into being one of the most successful movies of all time. And I guess they're going to do a two-parter, and
So
it's
I
going to
heard, yeah.
darker, and they're going to get into some of these things, but obviously they're getting into them from the estate's perspective,
Hmm.
the estate's perspective. But that being said, if Michael can reach a billion, I think the Odyssey stands a good chance, if only because, I talked about this in my review. One thing that occurred to me sitting there is this is a story about how we do not listen.
Okay. Are you talking about like when they said you don't want to listen to these sirens now? and
Yeah.
and well,
It just
Odysseus, or
occurs
was
to
so was
me,
he was the character Odysseus or Ulysses?
Odysseus.
Okay, okay. I mean,
And he,
same. It's interchangeable, I guess,
yeah,
depending on Roman or
because he
Greek.
becomes a god, right, at some point. But so Odysseus, he's a general, he's in charge. But what's interesting to me about the way Christopher Nolan, because this is a huge, long story, right? I mean, how you put that on film, but really what he got to was this core thing, and on reflection, I really do see this, is that we have been telling the same story for centuries, right? So it's interesting. We were talking about race again. Aesop's fables. Who is Aesop? He's
Mm,
African. All of our foundational fables track back to him. The Europeans like to talk about Pliny the Elder. He said a bunch of nonsense, just lies and dumb stuff. Didn't make no sense. I mean, I don't even know why we still talk about this dude. But Aesop's fables are the fables on which many of our stories are based. So what I thought about sitting there is like, ever since we've been telling stories, we've been telling people stop trying to control death with death. Stop trying to, take over people. It's not gonna end well. It's not gonna fill the thing you're looking for. Stop, fighting for gods that may or may not care. Like these are the same stories, and these are, Christians don't like to talk about this, but Christianity is simply built on these fables
a
turned
lot
into
of them.
other story, right? So basically, we've been saying the same thing since we could tell stories, and we still don't get it. We still don't listen. It's like it's as if it's pointless. I mean, it did feel a little. It was a weird feeling or result for me to think that watching the movie, but I was like, damn, like people have been trying to tell each other the same stuff for thousands of years, and yet here we are with Pete Hegseth putting together the white supremacist testosterone army. It's like we have some kind of horrible uh movie where it just repeats and repeats and repeats. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that was the thing that hit me. I was like, man, ever since people been telling stories, they've been telling each other to stop, and we just won't stop.
You're gonna
Uh,
make me go see this movie.
it makes you sad a bit. You're like, man, oh, it's exhausting.
Yeah.
And why are we, and the thing of it is, now rape, pillage, murder, and steal, yeah, we got that message. We'll do that all day long,
It
you
just
know
didn't keep reading.
yeah,
They
yeah.
got that part.
it's
Boy.
it's really interesting as a story. Oh, and the other the character or the actor who was in there was an actor named Himesh Patel, and
Hmm.
he is
I would say he's probably Asian or
well, he's
South
British.
Asian.
Yeah, he's
Well,
a
heritage wise.
British born, really interesting background. He's Indian,
Mm-hmm.
but he was born in Zambia, and his father was born in Kenya.
Mm-hmm.
So he's a Indian, African, British, and this is exactly what Greece you would see in Greece.
Mm-hmm.
You would see him. You would see Africans. You would see people in the military. This is exactly what you would see. And the question about Helen of Troy, my complaint about this in the movie was when they gonna learn to like black people.
She's not even in the movie that long.
Child, she
For
in the movie
all,
a brief moment for all
yeah,
that
a
falling
couple
out.
of scenes or a few minutes, maybe.
I mean, a few seconds. And my position is, if you're gonna have her in this movie for a few seconds, why can't you light her skin? So I
I
used to be a
saw.
news.
So what? Yeah, are they
So,
not getting
so
the lighting right, or?
as you know, I used to be a news anchor, and this was a constant fight because when you are lighting in a mixed environment, what the lighting people do is they're lighting for white people. So, like if I'm sitting at the anchor desk, frequently it would look like I had a mustache or a beard because they're not lighting for me. They're lighting for the woman sitting next to me who's quite light. So,
Mm,
as a white person, they don't want her to look pale, right? So, the lighting is pulling up her peach and color, but it's flattening me. Now you address that by moving key lighting for me and having additional lighting, but the fact that you have to fight and ask for that every time, this is a constant battle. And when I left that station, I think like 2 years later on Facebook, this one black guy messaged me and he said, "Oh, you know, we finally got that lighting thing." And I tell people that's Sherry's light. I was like, "That's so sweet," because I'm
What?
not even there. But you know, I created a big ruckus about this. But then why am I the problem? So basically, if you ever looked at the TV show Insecure, they were able to light yellow to very ebony dark, even in dark environments. And
Hmm.
so all of us have undertone. White people have peaches and other undertones. Black people have undertone. So no matter how dark you are, there is some ebony, there might be some purple, could be a little blue, could be browns. You know, there's colors under there. When the lighting does not capture that, it makes you look flat and ashen. So the
Mm.
problem with Lupita's lighting is it made her look black without distinguishment. And that is a false, like as a black person, I'm looking at that. I know, don't know black person look like that. I've seen Lupita Nyong'o in multiple environments on television. I know she has moments where brown catches, a
Sure.
deeper brown catches. And so that is a choice to make her look like onyx, but also it takes away from the beautiful hues of her skin. And white light designers do not know how to light black skin. And how are you going to do a $250 million movie? You cannot take the time, especially because she's supposed to be Helen of Troy. And I see that in the movie, there's something that somebody did to her to disfigure her, which is part of the story. But
Sure.
even with that, you should have taken care in lighting her face. And I
Hmm.
just was so disappointed in that because it happened in Stranger Things too. They seem to have corrected it by the final season, but the black kid in
Oh
Stranger
yeah.
Things, it was darkly shot. Get that. You key light him. You set light for him. He is not the problem. Your lighting is the problem. And
Hmm.
he disappeared the season before the final. You couldn't even see him half the time. So anyway, I get very it's
You know,
something that I
that's one
dealt
of the
with
interesting things
regularly.
I thought about Sinners was they
Yes.
had a woman who
Yes.
was, which I don't think she's black, but definitely a person of color, and it to me is one of the most beautifully shot films that I've ever seen.
Yeah. Yeah.
And in all you think about in that, the one scene everybody talks about where you've got Asian people, all different kind of and just the lighting and the way the scene is set is just so perfect. It's really so maybe these folks need to be talking to that woman because
Well,
she.
they need to also talk to Insecure because this was a HBO show every
Oh
week,
yeah.
and there was a lot of dark shooting, but they figured so these are people who clearly know what they're doing. So I guess
Hmm.
my feeling is why don't you talk to people who know what they're doing because you think you know everything, and why do you think this depiction of blackness, this flatness that you would never do to a white person, like that's the other thing, like unless you're trying to show a white person as sick or ill, you are not going to show them absent undercolors, undertow. You're just not. You're gonna because they look sick. It doesn't look right, but it somehow looks right to the cinematographer that black people just pitch black. Like that's not how any human looks. The darkest of dark person has tones, reds usually, other really interesting
But
tones
like
under
you
that.
said, even like a bluish, depending on how dark the person is. But I
Yeah.
was just looking in the chat room, and everybody has a comment on this. The other thing, and I'm sure you'd be familiar with this, perhaps, is hair. Finding a person who can do black hair.
And makeup.
And
Hair and makeup.
makeup, exactly. And
They
so,
still
yeah.
don't have competent people on shows. So what's interesting to me is that you can be a white makeup artist and hairstylist at a high level and not be able to do black hair and makeup.
Hmm.
But if you are a black makeup artist at a high level, you have to be able to do white hair and makeup.
Everybody's. It's just like the
So
barbershop, right?
who is but in this world of Hollywood, who is most competent then? Because if I have to be able to do both and you can only do one and be vaunted as this great person, and you up here putting green eyeshadow still on black people, because that's always a go-to when
Got
people
him
don't.
looking like Star Trek.
Child, it's always green eyeshadow. I don't know why it's always green eyeshadow, but it is in fact always green eyeshadow. How are you top of your craft and you can't do it? You know what I'm saying? And actually, a show that just finished the season, which I love so much, which is the Vampire Lestat, which is part of the Interview of the Vampire universe. The character Louis, they replaced him with a black man who's British, but he plays Creole, and he does a fabulous job, actually.
Mhm.
They have a black hairstylist because I saw some back scene pictures, and she was giving him a curl set. She had the thing, but that's what it means. But she could also do white hair. It doesn't go both ways. It doesn't go both ways. Many black models still today have to show up.
Supermodels.
Yes, they have to show up with their own foundation because they can't. Maybe they can't see our undertones, and so when they're doing the lighting, they don't know they're missing it, because it does happen with makeup where that a white makeup artist will try to do your makeup, and what they'll put on is like dark. It like they just see you as dark, so they'll put on makeup and it flattens your color. They're not real. They're not, maybe they're not seeing it. I don't know. They're not seeing that they're putting on like a mask over your skin. So maybe it's there's a theory about when we aren't exposed to something, we develop kind of a blindness to it. So there's this theory called other race-based blindness. Have you ever heard of this?
I'm sorry, what now?
Other race-face blindness.
I have not heard of that.
Okay, so the theory is that if you don't spend a lot of time around other race, like let's, for the sake, leave black and white, let's move to Asian American or Asians. I don't spend a lot of time around Asian people, right? So Korean, Japanese, Chinese, As a result, I developed kind of a face blindness, and meaning I'm not good at distinguishing. So I might think this person looks like this person because I don't have a strong database of images. So I kind of have like a bit of a blindness as to what I'm seeing. So there is this theory that because we don't spend a lot, and because people of color, we are confronted more with white faces,
right?
White people, we have a better facility on that. Not to mention that black people do be like, oh, that blonde girl is just like that blonde girl. I mean, I'm not saying we don't do that, because we do have a bit of other race face blindness, but we definitely have a larger catalog, people of color, of white faces than white people do of other faces. Does that make sense? And
it makes perfect sense. I'll give you an example. When I was still in Little Rock, I worked at a brokerage firm, and you're wearing a suit every day. I would be in the grocery store, and I'm walking in the door, and somebody I work with is coming out the door that I see every day, but I didn't have a suit on. They don't even know me. Walked right by me like I am just a random person. Somebody that I work with, or around all the time. It used to happen to me always. If I did not have that suit on, they didn't know who I was. So yeah, it's
exactly. And I do, when I'm doing trainings on this, try to bring some humanity into this. In other words, is it racist? Is it human? Is it that we just don't spend enough time with each other to be able to make some of these distinguishments? But when you are an expert, when you are a hairstylist on a TV show or a makeup artist at a modeling, it is your job to do the work, to do the time. Black people, we don't have a choice, right? We are interfacing with a white world. So if I want to go out into the world and hold myself out as an expert of any type, I can't just know black things. It just doesn't work like that. But white people can live in a world where they can hold themselves out as experts and only know white things. Is that, what I mean?
Absolutely. I'm sorry, I'm laughing because I'm looking in the chat and we've got a lot of really humorous comments, but Lynette says people don't know her unless she's with her husband. So, but she
Oh.
also commented on, it's called prosopagnosia. It's a
Uh-huh.
cognitive disorder where the brain struggles to recognize or distinguish faces, including one's own. And people with this condition see facial features perfectly fine, but their brains, I guess, can't process, the match like the
Well,
face.
yeah,
Like
a
they
lot of
just,
people have that.
so yeah, it's,
Well, I also have another problem for me. I don't have any visual memory. So,
that's all I got.
yeah, yeah. No, most people do. Not having a visual memory is actually a small percentage of the population, which I
Now,
did not
wait, what does
know.
that mean? Like you go
Yeah.
to a place and you don't remember it, like seeing it, or what?
No, not that. It's really that the phrase is called aphantasia, and it's where the brain cannot conjure mental images. So I don't picture events. So
Mm,
I didn't know this was a thing until relatively recently. I thought when people said imagine an apple, they were being metaphorical. And apparently a lot of people with this condition, we think this, right? Because I don't know what's going on in your brain. So here's the thing. When I am asleep, I can see images because I'm a pretty lucid dreamer. That's a different part of your brain. So I know exactly what an image should be like because I remember that when I'm dreaming, I can see images. But in waking life, the ability to close my eyes and see an apple, I don't have that. So that is difficult for faces. So
huh.
it takes me much longer. So people who have aphantasia also have that other thing in varying degrees because I can see your face. But so I had somebody say to me, "Oh, I remember when you were on stage and you had on this suit." And I'm like, "What?" Like, I don't have any way to do that. So I have started actually saying to people, like, "Hey, I'm sorry. it's difficult. I can't pull up your picture from anywhere. I don't have a Rolodex in my head. I don't have images.
Mm,
So it takes me to meet you multiple times and then I contextualize you. I mean, obviously I can see, I'm not blind, but
sure.
I don't have the connecting piece that would pop me back to you, right? So it gets hard because I meet a lot of people. And people do get really hurt and really insulted. And I don't mean it. I just don't have any way to do it. It's overwhelming to do it without the visual part. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah, it does. I live by my
You're
mental
blown away.
Rolodex. Well, yeah, y'all didn't know this was going to be a medical show, did you? No, but seriously, I whatever the opposite extreme of that is what I got. Where
Yeah,
I
yeah.
can remember like strange, weird details of stuff that happened 10 years ago, you know. But
It's
now
amazing.
I have little tricks like with names. When I meet a person, I always try to repeat their name back to them at some point,
Mhm,
just
mhm.
so it can get, in the mental Rolodex. But yeah, that's crazy.
Here, I put the link in the chat for I don't know if I'm saying it right, aphantasia, where you just and it's a small percentage of people, but again, you don't know because you're living your life until at some point something came up, and I was like, wait a minute, you really see an apple? I was so confused. I was like, because I only know my own life, right? I
Right.
only know my own brain. So I don't know what the hell other people
Mhm.
talking about. You know,
It's so
I don't
funny.
I didn't know, but I knew that I had a hard time remembering people and that I forget. So this is very helpful for like traumatic things or like people I want to forget. I can forget the shit out of somebody, man. Number one, because I don't have a visual thing to call up. And unless I'm ruminating on some emotional aspect, you can disappear from my memory. And
Dang.
so it's kind of weird,
So when
but
you say forget you,
I really mean
you
it.
really can forget somebody.
When I say forget you, I mean I don't know
You are
you.
gone.
I don't even remember knowing you, you know? And so I
Dang.
used to wonder about that. Because I used to wonder, why don't I have memories of being a kid? And I thought, well, maybe I was traumatized, or I mean, I was traumatized. That's a separate story. But I thought, well, maybe I was abused or something, like this repression. And then it finally all came together. I don't have that. My brain doesn't do that. So therefore, so I'm the opposite. That's why I'm so verbal. I believe that your brain makes accommodations. So, like, to me, you could talk at me for 3 hours, and my brain is like taking the information, moving it around, putting that word over here. Like, I am so auditory and so verbal. Like you said, you're image extreme. I'm auditory extreme. Everything I know through this world, I understand through sound and through hearing.
Shannon would say I'm verbal extreme.
Yes, see, but
But
I'm verbal auditory extreme.
yeah, yeah.
Yes, I think our brain just works out. So I know we're getting close to time. I just have something I want to talk about.
All right, let's hear it.
Explosive diarrhea.
Oh Lord.
I want to talk about explosive diarrhea.
Yeah. Y'all, let me tell you. Um, it is just sort of getting to my area of the country.
Yeah.
And as a matter of fact, my daughter was just telling me a couple of hours ago, she's a server at one of the local restaurants.
Uh,
And she, I don't know, somebody's ordering and they were going to get a salad and they were like, is this from such and such farms? And she's like, I don't know, but it's
well,
apparently one of the places around here.
hold on. Hold on.
Oh boy.
This is related to the incompetence that is the
Hmm.
Trump administration. And this is what happens when you fire people because of their race and because of their gender, and you
Hmm.
hire incompetent people. Because guess what? Taylor Farms,
That
yesterday
is
I
what
was
they
giving,
asked her. They
okay,
asked her,
so,
I wasn't
so
going to say the name, but yeah, Taylor
So, like,
Farm.
somebody put this in the comments. Hold on to your butts. So, Taylor Farms just came out with a statement saying that the FDA lied, that the FDA produced a false positive sample for their lettuce to call it, and it was not the source of the Clisto pooping disease. I don't know. There was, in fact, no confirmed for their lettuce products. This has devastated this company. And this is because the FDA is underfunded and has been underfunded and has a bunch of incompetent people running the agency. And this was last year. People said, we're going to have food safety problems because they fired all the people who know what's going on. Oh, so Taylor Farms is MAGA. Somebody said, well, then good they got messed up. But this level of incompetence is dangerous to all of us. So the fact that the FDA did something like this, first of all, they weren't tracking it properly. Second of
Hmm.
all, when they did, they do this false test result and didn't even double check it. Put these people on Front Street with their lettuce when it wasn't them. So what is it?
Hmm.
So that's one. And then there's the incompetence in the military. We had service people die over the weekend because weren't we told that Iran has no capacity? No capacity.
We gotta
Wasn't that what
quit.
we were told?
We gotta quit destroying all their stuff because apparently they just keep going getting new stuff.
Yeah,
You
where they
know?
getting it from? Where they getting it from? Weren't we told they didn't have any uh and they we don't know how many people have been injured. So to me, the FDA and the Taylor firms and
Hmm.
the soldiers, I think they're connected by the through line of incompetence. You know?
Yeah, I mean, I look at the whole situation in Iran. It, it is going to go down as one of the biggest military blunders in history because before Trump initiated this whole, situation that we're in, the general, conventional wisdom was we got the most powerful military in the world. Can't nobody fuck
Mhm,
with us.
mhm, mhm.
And lo and behold, he has gone over to the Middle East and shown everybody in the world what our Achilles heel is. Yeah, we got bombs for days. All right.
Well,
But
look,
we
this
got
reminds
all this stuff. But
that remind me of the quote, Marlon, better to remain silent and be thought a fool than to speak and
mhm.
remove all doubt.
Because I mean, look, Iran has basically taken our best punch, and they're still there. And now, what's happening? Now the Houthis have sort of reconstituted themselves, from what I hear, and they are getting ready to block the Red Sea.
Well, they said ain't a drop of oil gonna go through there. They
They
said not a drop of oil. They
and
said drippity
what
drop.
what's interesting is they have totally flipped this whole situation. You notice Iran is not attacking Israel. They're hitting everybody but Israel because they
So,
know Israel's right there. They don't want to get into it with them.
but here's the thing: like the Trump administration has been saying all these outrageous, outlandish things. We bombed them into the Stone Age. They don't have anything. We've destroyed. They don't have, but we do have to keep bombing them because they have this stuff. But they don't have this stuff, and they can't do anything to us. And but they keep killing people, and we don't even know how many people have been injured. But this is incompetence because
Hmm.
Pete Hegseth, instead of he continues to deny Black and women promotions in all branches of the military, instead raising up incompetent white men. And then he's going to have anybody over 30 got to prove they got enough testosterone. So they want to have a incompetent white supremacist testosterone filled military. And in that scenario, you're going to make terrible decisions, right? Because you don't have discernment. You don't know how to calm the hell down because over a certain age, testosterone and estrogen both drop, and you have a little bit more discernment. So they don't want anybody with discernment. So we are guaranteed to end up in trouble in this situation because we're getting rid of people who know. So, if the explosive diarrhea don't kill you, Iran gonna get you. You know what I mean?
Oh,
Like
it's crazy. I actually, you're talking about Hegseth. So while all that is happening,
make me so sick. Sorry.
these guys are buzzing beaches now with these F-16s. Have you seen this?
Yeah, I've seen it. That's what happens when you have testosterone running wild.
When you
Yeah.
got too much.
Yeah.
I'm just, okay, I always got a little bit. Look at this. I mean, okay, I live.
Didn't they also go to Kid Rock's house with a
Yeah, with a
Yeah.
bunch of like some Black Hawk helicopters. Just,
Mhm.
they are doing all kinds of things that are so outside of regulations and
That's what little boys do.
procedures.
That's not what grown men do, right? That's what little boys do. That's what
Yeah.
little boys on the other side of puberty, just hitting all the hormones, do. And this is the kind of military he wants, And this take me back to the Odyssey. One of the things Odysseus really comes to see is this is terrible. This is terrible. Like why are we doing this? You know what I mean? This
Mhm.
is, and so all people like Pete Hegseth, they really,
But they get off on the whole rush
the
of it.
yeah, they love the idea of Roman and Greek. Those people didn't like it. They knew it was violence for violence sake and it had no end, right? And yet here we are, thousands of years later, in the same damn predicament, where we have a bunch of lunatics. And
Yeah.
and so our health and safety in the United States is at risk. The FDA, somebody said, and I think this was last year, that you should be careful about everything you eat going forward.
They didn't have to tell me,
You
because when
smell
you
your
look
foods,
at
check your
all of
vaccines.
the regulations they were getting rid of
Yes,
on everything.
yes.
So just general public safety, the food, the water that we drink. I
Mhm.
mean, it's going to take a generation to undo a lot of
At least
stuff.
it's so funny you say that because somebody said, how long would it take? It's like it only takes a couple of years to screw it up, but it takes 50 to 100 years to undo, depending on how bad it gets. And if we
Mm.
can't do any stoppage at the midterm, we're looking at 100 years to redo. So, right now we're probably 40, 50 years into fixing some of the things they're doing. But practical things that people should check their meat, meaning give it a sniff. You should use like a fruit and vegetable wash on all your fruits and vegetables, even if it says pre-wash. You should look at your products you buy in the store because they're trying to fix it so they can keep stuff on store shelves longer, like until it spoils, so you buy it. Like we literally are going to have to pick up the slack because these people don't care if we live or die, with food or health or safety.
Hmm. Yeah,
So it's
it's crazy.
crazy.
And I mean, do they not eat? That's the part I don't understand is they're, this isn't just stuff that's going to affect blue states.
Hmm.
And probably it's going to affect red states disproportionately.
Oh yeah, yeah. But they'll die for it. I've said that before. You have a group of people, of white people who will die for white supremacy. And so, it's a bit of a lost cause. Like they're already dying. They die of lack of health insurance. They die of diseases of despair. And so they're just, as long as you tell people, the blacks, the Mexicans,
It's
the
going to be
Islam,
worse for us.
and as long as you tell them that we're at fault, they'll believe that. They believe that. And as long as you tell them that they're going to still be above us, they'll die for that. And so it's
crazy.
hard to get people like that. I do think there are people who aren't like that. Like I said before, it's the people who aren't paying attention and the people who don't vote we really need to spend time on, because there are a ton of people who are like, I'm busy, I have kids, I know something's going on, but I don't know what it is. Those are the people who make a bigger difference in voting, and talking to them and
Right.
letting and hipping them. That's where the energy really needs to be placed, I think, because a lot of the red state people, they've been dying for hundreds of years down there. They don't seem to care. They perennially. I never forget Joe Manchin. Just an aside, because this makes me so angry. Joe Manchin and Christian Sinema blocked the Build Back Better that Biden had. And Build Back Better would have brought universal child care to the United States. It would have brought more expanded healthcare. It would have really transformed this country. And it was two Democrats. And Joe Manchin said at a meeting with the White House, and he got very mad that this got leaked, that his people in was it Kentucky?
Virginia, West Virginia.
West Virginia.
Yeah.
They didn't need this because all they would do with extra money is spend it on drugs anyway.
Well,
and they didn't vote him out. And they didn't consider that.
That's the part I'll never understand is, I get the whole, racial stratification, whatever, but beyond that, folks just vote against their interests so just with regularity, and I don't understand it. But
those people,
what are you going to do?
Virginia who suffer generational suffering, but you can't get them out of it. They in some kind of, I call that Chappelle skit with Rick James saying cocaine is a hell of a drug, and so I have taken to saying whiteness is a hell of a drug. It's a hell of a drug. It's got people mainlining it to the point that they'll propofol themselves out on it. They just can't unhook from it, and it is killing them in ways. We know how it impacts us, but I think the ways it harms white people are intentionally hidden, so that they don't think about it. And even those who notice it, they don't care. It's crazy. But all of us are going to have to smell our meat and wash our vegetables and
cook it at high. I can't eat rare steak anymore. It's going to have to be well done.
Yeah.
So take us home, Shari. It's about that time.
All right. It's time. So first of all, we really appreciate all of you tuning in to Citizens Arrest. And please follow Marlon and myself. Collectively, we have the show, but individually, Marlon had this great idea of doing this kind of network where, we have these different shows with different folks. We have to try to put ourselves together because, as you all know, there are a lot of people on this platform, and I'm not even going to get into what happened with Michael Cohen and all these people giving all their money to Michael Cohen, but you had no money for over here. So
See,
get into that. But
we tried to tell you. We tried to tell you.
It's important that you follow the journeyman, that you follow Qualified at the Intersection, that you tell your friends and family, and because this takes time and effort, and it is creative work that we do. And, turning this into something even bigger is something we hope for. So, yeah.
That's it.
That's it. All right. Thank you all. Thank you, Marlon. Thanks for
all right. And until next time,
folks too.
take care,
okay.
folks.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.